Abe Hamadeh, who is running for Congress out in Arizona, battleground state. And Abe, I want to start with this. I'm going to get into the Attorney General of Arizona race with you here in a sec. But first, you were a prosecutor. I'm sure you've been paying some attention to the Trump case in New York City that Alvin Bragg brought. As a prosecutor, how would you analyze the case so far from your perspective?
Clay, good to be with you. Well, if you look at this, people always ask me about my legal analysis on this case, and quite frankly, it's kind of difficult to do that because I think all of us can recognize what is happening. It's a political witch hunt. The case involves, federal issues of election law that was declined way back in 2017. But Alvin Bragg, what he did, he brought the third highest ranking member of the Department of Justice to be this prosecutor on this case. So I'm a former prosecutor, Clay, and I am ashamed at the legal system. And if you're looking, it's not just in New York with this one case. You see Letitia James, Fannie Willis, you have Chris Mays out here in Arizona, then you got Jack Smith. And what really concerns me is these are attorneys who are in their 40s, 50s, and 60s who are this radicalized with this Marxist ideology. What concerns me is this new crop that's coming out of the universities, how committed they are going to be to destroying our country and the rule of law. So, this is why Trump has to win. And I know the jury pool is very heavily favored in terms of the prosecution just because it was overwhelmingly for Joe Biden. But if you look at Michael Cohen's testimony, he's a convicted liar multiple times. And I think the defense is doing an excellent job on it. But, it's hard when it's stacked against you so much. But we have to pray and hope that the jury does the right thing. But I think everybody, at least everybody watching this, if they've seen any trials of this case, they're looking at this as a witch hunt, and I think it's only helped Trump in his election prospects.
I don't want you to dodge this because you're a politician, and politicians are good at dodging questions. This is going to be maybe the most difficult question you get this whole campaign. You went to Arizona State undergrad. You went to the University of Arizona for law school. Who do you root for when Arizona and Arizona State play? And a tie, and by the way, a tie is not an acceptable answer at all, sir.
No, it's not. I'm brutally honest. Well, it depends which sport. My brother-in-law, he was actually an NBA champion who played at ASU, Jeff Ayers. So, with basketball, it's probably ASU, but, typically U of A does a lot better. But football, it tends to be U of A. It really depends on which sport it is. But I had a good time at both schools.
I saw by the way, that is the typical politician answer. Well, in football, one thing, basketball, another. So both sides can be happy and angry simultaneously. I'm sure you saw the video of the ASU frat guys clearing up the Palestine protests, and it went super viral. It intended to be a negative, but a lot of people were like, hey, good for those guys. Would you have believed when you were at ASU and you were at the U of A that it would ever get to the point where Jewish students didn't feel comfortable walking around campus?
No, and I think that's what's so scary right now, Clay, is how aggressive the Marxists are. I've always been saying it's kind of an unusual alliance that's happening right now, right? You see these people have purple hair, pink hair. They don't know what gender they are. They're flying this LGBTQ flag along with Hezbollah flags and Palestinian flags, which is unusual, right? But this is what Marxism is. It's filled with contradictions. They're using the universities as their training camps. They're using the media as their propaganda arm. And they're using radical Islamists, BLM, and Antifa as their military wing. So, in combination of all those three things, it's a recipe for disaster. And I applaud ASU and U of A has been cracking down a lot more aggressively than other schools. And if you saw the frat boys at ASU, it was almost sanctioned by the university. Actually, the police, the undercover police, were basically telling them, "Hey, go do the dirty work for us." It's good to see that strong people. Courage is contagious, Clay, and I think that's what's important. We have to stand for truth. We have to protect. We keep saying Jewish students, but these are American students. These are our fellow Americans. And imagine if the same was in reverse, where you saw people in hijabs not allowed to go to campus classrooms. Everybody would be in uproar. So we have to be fair. We have to, protect our Jewish American students. And in Congress, what I want to do, I want to start going after the universities. They're taking all this money from Qatar, China, the Emirates, and that's the problem right now, is that our universities are captured by foreign countries.
We're talking to Abe I'm going to get you right now, your name correctly here. Hamadeh. You can correct me if I'm mispronouncing. One of the things that I do on the show all the time, Abe, is mispronounce everybody's name. I think I have the worst phonetics on the planet, so hopefully I'm getting that right. I want you to dive into, because you know better than anybody, what's going on in Arizona. I'm sitting here in Tennessee. Buck is usually down in Florida. And I'm concerned that in 2024, the election's going to come down to a few thousand votes in Arizona. And we saw what happened in 2020 where it felt like it took a month to figure out what the vote tally was going to be. You know better than anybody. I would say almost in the entire country. In 2022, you can tell the audience that may not be aware how minimal the gap was between you being the Attorney General of Arizona and you not. And all of the issues, particularly in Maricopa County, but certainly in other parts of Arizona as well. Should we, non-Arizonans, but I'm sure Arizonans certainly want this as well, but for people outside, have you guys fixed the election-related issues? Are you confident that in 2024, we talked to Kari Lake a couple days ago, you know this, tell us your Attorney General experience in that race and what happened, and should we be confident at all in the process in Arizona?
Yeah, well, that's a great question, and you're pronouncing my name correctly, Clay. You know, I don't have an easy name like you with two first names. But
I've actually got three, Richard, Clay, Travis, and yes, that causes its own issues. But yeah, tell us about the Attorney General process.
Absolutely. So in 2022 here in Arizona, we all saw what happened with those machines going down. Ultimately, you know, I supposedly lost my race by 280 votes out of 2.5 million, the closest race in Arizona history, Clay. And there's still 9,000 uncounted ballots from Election Day. And what's interesting about that is a lot of these ballots that were not counted are actually legitimate ballots. One of them is the husband of a state senator who's an Army veteran for 30 years. Imagine his vote did not count. It was counted. They classified it as a provisional ballot. So, and we overwhelmingly won Election Day votes. That's why those machines were targeted. I believe they were targeted, and they went down. And in my congressional district that I'm running in, it was hit the hardest. And it was a very Republican area with the most amount of seniors in the entire state. And those people can't wait in line for that long. And I tell people this, I am not confident about what's going to happen. I'm only confident that me and Kari Lake have been exposing all of this here in Arizona. But unfortunately, the same people who ran 2020 and 2022 in Arizona are still in charge. However, I think a lot of these lawsuits, you know, there has been good momentum with it. We have a strong RNC chairwoman. We have a strong Arizona Republican Party chairwoman who's excellent on election integrity. So at least we're vigilant now, but we have to be guarded, of course. But, you know, with President Trump, I think they're worried right now, Clay. In 2020, the biggest difference was there wasn't this rise of third parties. If you remember, the Green Party was not on the ballot. RFK Jr. was not on the ballot. So now you have this combination of all these third parties. So I think it becomes more difficult for the left to possibly cheat in this election. I tell folks, you know, how they're rigging our elections. It's not just the voter rolls. It's not just the machines with the, you know, going down. It's death by 1,000 cuts. And that's something that I've learned over the past 2 years. And that's why I'm so excited. You know, I'm endorsed by President Trump and Kari Lake because they know I'm a strong fighter. I don't back down from this corruption. So when I go to Washington, D.C., it's going to be one of my top priorities. But my race is July 30th, and when I win my primary, it's a very Republican district. I'm going to make sure we recapture the Senate by getting Kari Lake elected, and we take back the White House by getting President Trump elected, because this is a do-or-die election. Everybody recognizes it. And Arizona, you're right, it was the closest state in the country. And now it's being headed by these Democrats and, unfortunately, some of these weak-kneed Republicans who don't want to acknowledge what's happening. But look at just yesterday in Texas, a judge literally just ordered a new election for 2022, Clay. I don't know if you saw that, but, you know, people are starting to take election integrity much more seriously now, and I think that's a good thing. We have to really focus on it when we get to Washington, D.C.
Abe, appreciate the time. 280 votes. I can't even imagine what that's like. We're rooting for you guys all to take back Arizona, flip it back red, and help to restore some sanity in the country. Appreciate the time.
Thanks so much, Clay.
I want to tell you, speaking of, we were just talking to Abe, he's also in the military reserve, and he's done incredible work there. He would be eligible to go on to GovX. So would Buck, who was in the CIA, and will be back with me tomorrow. So would many of you, and that's why we're happy to have them as a new sponsor on the program. GovX operates a massive online shopping website for government employees of all kinds: teachers, firefighters, police officers, EMS professionals. This site's made for you. If you're a current or former military, former or current government service personnel member, you have access to GovX.com as well, specially designed for those who have served our country and our communities. Great discounts on a ton of different brands out there. You can save up to 40% on apparel, boots, shoes, jewelry, including watches, optics, camping, and hunting gear. Best part as well, for many of you, GovX gives back. They give huge dollar amounts to so many different nonprofits out there that serve the military and first responder communities. And when you shop on GovX.com, your orders can make a meaningful impact. Visit GovX.com today. Join a community of more than 8.5 million people already out there saving. See if you qualify. Visit GovX.com. Use the code CLAY in the shopping cart to get an extra $15 off your first order. GovX, savings for those who serve.